Welcome to The Growth Concept. Today's episode is a deep dive into the health space, looking beyond those surface level symptoms and diving into the powerful connection between the mind, body, and soul. Joining me is Dr. Talia Steed. Enjoy this episode. This is The Growth Concept. Dr. Talia Steed, welcome to The Growth Concept podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
I truly feel this conversation is going to be very fascinating and interesting because holistic approach to things is something I haven't been taught, and I don't think many individuals have. But one thing I love when I was researching you is your mission. Your mission is to empower individuals on their journey of healing, self-discovery, and transformation by addressing the deeper emotional and mental and spiritual roots of their challenges. Let's go back in time. What is the story, the mission behind this powerful vision?
That's a big question. I think I've always had that within me, this desire to support others and be of service in the world. And that's kind of where it all stemmed. And then along my journey, like us all, we kind of go on these different paths. And that led me to medicine, which wasn't the right path, but was where I learned a lot about health and healing. And then that then led to exploring all other modalities. And that led to kind of working out my own vision of health and healing. So it was kind of just a series of events, which I think is the story of all of our lives, really. One thing leads to the next and the next, and you're just on this exploration.
What was the turning point for this powerful vision? Was it a specific moment in your life? I remember listening to a podcast of yours and you were working in nursing and it all started slowly to click as you were saying the series of events.
I was actually in medicine. So I was working in medicine as a doctor and seeing people, struggling with health issues and the mainstream medical model focusing mainly on the physical. And so that, alongside my own journey going through, chronic symptoms showing up in the body that had no diagnosis or explanation, that led me to go deeper. So it wasn't one moment per se. It was a series of moments in myself and witnessing in other people really struggling with finding answers from the current system.
Interesting you bring that up because you talk about the physical, that the traditional system mainly only focuses on the physical. What does that mean?
So that kind of means like if someone goes to the doctor and they say that they have a headache, doctors, we're really trained to look for the red flag symptoms, something that could be really bad, like cancer, stroke, all the big things. So doctors are of this mindset to make sure there isn't something really serious. And that's good. We need that. That's of value. So this, by no means am I, going against that. That is required. And that's where doctors are very good. But once it kind of gets past those like red flags and those are all ruled out, then it's like, okay, they're not quite sure it's a tension headache or it's this or that. And that's kind of where it stops. So if you have a really great doctor, then they'll take it deeper. But often that's like the limitations, if that makes sense.
Because I know like relating this to like the common mental health, I'm just putting an umbrella on it, common mental health problems these days, like anxiety, depression, like with hearing from other people's experiences, you go to a doctor with having really bad anxiety problems and they just want to shove pills down your throat. And it has always sparked my interest on, are they really wanting to really dig deep into that mind-body connection? Or is it covering that up with a Band-Aid just because you get extra commission for recommending this particular medicine? I feel like this is so deep so quickly, but I think what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, what you're saying about the quick medication, I had an experience once where I myself, and this is why it's been such an interesting journey, because I've been doctor and patient at the same time, which all doctors are. We are all patient. Even replace doctor with healing professional. Every healing professional is also receiving healing from someone. I mean, it's like teacher, student. Every good teacher is also a student. So, but anyway, so I went to the doctor and I was actually feeling really just lost. I was feeling at that stage of my life, I was feeling lost with my career, lonely, and these really deep human feelings that are actually very normal. And I went in there really just to have a chat, and I knew her position, so I was trying to make it easier for her by saying, look, I'm not expecting anything from you. You don't need to fix anything. But straight away, and I was so saddened by this interaction, straight away she came at me with this questionnaire, this depression questionnaire, and like, and basically telling me I was depressed and I probably needed medication, like what you're saying. And like, I was really shocked because number one, this was our first consult. She'd never met me before. Number two, I was working as a doctor myself, and I was saying, I really am coming here just for a conversation. I put it out there, I put it on a platter, and it was straight away. Like, and I think what that shows is someone's own discomfort with sitting with hard emotions. It's beyond just it's beyond medicine. It's like broader to our society. That is how we've all conditioned ourselves to be. If there's a big emotion, if someone goes, really deep, really quickly, that they feel lonely or lost, people don't know what to do with it. And that's how that has infiltrated in our healthcare system.
Obviously, having that doctor-patient ratio that you've had in your life, with your approach to things now, was that based on your past experiences with healthcare professionals?
I think I always had that foundation. Like I remember at university, like my interest, what do they call it? Elective topic was psychology of healing. So I was always drawn to these like more philosophical healing type units or ideas. So my approach, even when I was sitting in that GP seat myself, I always had that approach. Like if someone came in with a physical health issue, and once I had ruled out the red flags, like I was talking to you about before, that there was nothing serious, I did go into, what's happening in your life situation, mental health, social health, relationships, all these factors, because that was just, I guess I've always had that framework in my mind. It didn't really come from anything per se. It's just something I've always held. Yeah, seeing the bigger picture.
Interesting. That experience where you had with obviously going to the doctor, just wanting to chat, and then they pull the Uno reverse card out and boom, here's some pills to take.
Yeah, I was like, and I even said to one of my best friends, like when I spoke to her about how disheartened I was from that interaction, she was like, any of us, like if you go in your most vulnerable moment, she's like, she also said, like, I've had so many times they would have wanted to put me on antidepressants. And it's just like, yeah, we're just wanting our doctors to become, I guess, healers, to go back to that really whole, to be able to, yes, of course, rule out those red flags and then take it deeper and then say, what is going on? What are the things at play for you? I don't know if you've experienced anything similar yourself, like where you just kind of want that human connection. You don't want to be fixed. You just want to be heard.
That experience, I've never really had an experience like that because I haven't really had a doctor for a very long time. For example, when I was younger, I remember mum taking me to the same doctor her mum went to. And that was our family doctor for years. And it's interesting observing society now. I truly feel that connection with the doctor has been lost. And now it's, you walk into a GP and it's like, next, number 3, you just treat it like numbers. With being sick once and getting prescribed these medications, because there was such a rush to prescribe me with this particular medication, that actually made me more sick. So then it's not really, as you were saying, attacking the root problem. It's just that Band-Aid fix. With your experience, do you think doctors now, I feel like this is a bit of a dangerous thing to say, but doctors now have like a commission, or if you like get a patient on this or X drug, then you get X bonus because you're helping them?
They actually don't. So in all fairness to that, so this is why it's so complex, because I worked with a lot of doctors who are actually really thinking they're doing people service. So they are working hard, they are burning themselves out, their own mental health is struggling because they are outpouring how they think they should be, how we have conditioned doctors to be, right? That is That is not entirely their faults per se, because how can they teach something they were never taught themselves? It's like, if you think of the analogy, an anxious parent who was never taught by their parents how to emotionally regulate, how can they teach their own child how to emotionally regulate? We can't teach something we haven't learned. So if we just see doctors like that, they haven't been taught in medical school and in life, like the deeper parts. So they're doing their best. They're throwing things at drugs at patients because that's the only tool they have, not because they don't want to. They just don't have the skills. Some do. Some will take it further, but there's no kind of, in medicine, there isn't really any, I don't know what it's like in US and things like that, but in Australia, doctors get no incentive really for prescribing certain drugs or anything like that. What I've seen more in naturopathy, and this is where we have to be really discerning when we're on a healing journey, naturopaths actually, when they sell something, often they have a supply in their store, in their clinic, and they actually, obviously they're buying that supply to sell, so that probably you have to be a little bit more wary and make sure you've got a naturopath that's really a good healer, that really isn't just trying to sell it to you, and that's working with you and that you trust, because that's the supplement industry can be equally dangerous to the pharmaceutical industry if it's not selected by someone who really is altruistic in their motives. So I think that's something for everyone to be aware of, because on my own journey, in trying to, I guess, heal chronic symptoms that didn't have a physical basis, there was no diagnosis, there was nothing actually wrong on a physical or medical level. Then you go down naturopathy, see a naturopath or Chinese medicine doctor. None of these things ever worked for me. And I spent so much money, like outpouring on all the things, because it wasn't of the physical level. It was mental, emotional, and spiritual. So that also obviously shaped my approach the most, my own journey, because when you see in your own body, and it can be almost like magic, like how profound things can show up, and then you look at the root causes. Maybe it's something you've been stressing about, or maybe it's a anger that you're holding towards someone, or a fear, whatever it is. And then when you address that and it starts to lessen, that is intricate learning in the mind-body connection. So
such a good point.
So a few things there. Sorry to throw things. A few things at you.
Amazing.
So I think the important thing, like to sum up what I've just said, like the important thing is the discernment around any health practitioner, that there's good and not so good in all of them. So it's not just, bad doctors, good alternative practitioners. That's not how it is. There's great doctors and there's not so good alternative health practitioners. We really need to have our mind like going, okay, well, this is what all these people have to say. Now, what feels right for me? All of it is just information. How can I tailor it to myself? And how can I connect with my intuition to work out which one is the best? Because if someone just blindly follows like a naturopath's, you need to take the supplement 3 times a day and all these herbs and and they make themselves sick, and then, but my naturopath said, I mean, that's just, then it's not serving anyone, you see.
So it's more of that diversity people are needing, like getting different opinions, thoughts.
Yeah, it's more about going, okay, I'm drawn to going to see a kinesiologist, or I'm drawn to see an acupuncturist or herbal Chinese medicine doctor, or whatever it is that feels right for you. And then you go and then you tune in. Well, how did I feel? Did I feel like this was empowering, or did I feel like I was just being told what to do? Did it feel like that old school doctor tells patient? Because anything can start to resemble the old school doctor-patient framework. Even if it looks like a yoga teacher saying, you're only a good yogi if you go 3 times a week. And you have to think, okay, hang on. A true yoga teacher or a true doctor will go, these are your options. What feels good for you? If it doesn't feel right to go 3 times a week, then it's not right. Everyone is different.
Such a good point. Because I think even as a society looking at it as an umbrella approach again, is like it's very tunnel visioned. It's very my way or the highway. And there's like, it's getting better, I have to say, with media, different voices speaking up, and it's allowing people to have more of a opinion, more of a diverse range of, okay, well, there's the traditional medical route, but there's also other three paths I can go down. Let's go down each path and see what works and feels right for me. Is that kind of what you're saying
That's
with
the
that?
best approach. That is the best approach because, like, even we have to have such a broad, I guess, framework, like you're saying, because even if we go, okay, so today, let's give a concrete example. So this bloating. Okay, so today this bloating is there's nothing physical. We've done all the tests. Everything's actually fine. You don't have any allergies. You know, like it's all good. So let's go and address the anxiety. But in 5 years' time, that person that was bloated because they were anxious, they might have a parasite, and that bloating might then have a different cause. So they might feel, okay, maybe it's time for me to see a naturopath and see if there is something there. And then they might treat that and it might work then. And then in 5 years' time, they might actually have an underlying ovarian cancer. Okay, I'm just giving extreme examples so that we can get the point. So what's really important in all of this, and this is how our health links to our spiritual awakening, is being present to the moment as it is, not holding, well, it was anxiety 10 years ago, so it's anxiety today. We have to be present to the moment and go, it could be anything. And what does it feel? What am I being called to look at right now? And that's how health and healing links to spiritual awakening.
Okay, so I'm just like thinking of a practical way of like seeing this. So let's just say, so if I'm stressed about work and let's just say I've developed anxiety from so many other stressful occasions, and we're having a chat and we're trying to find the root cause of why I'm anxious, would it be looking at the present moment right now? Maybe I'm committing to too much, or is there a different approach you go down with the mind-body connection?
I mean, that's of course, you're going to be looking at what's happening in this moment, like say with anxiety, but that's a little bit more complex than that's taking what I was saying to another level because say on the mental health side, there could be many, many reasons why someone is anxious in this moment that are linked to many moments before. And if that person, that depends on that person. If that person has already explored their childhood and their whole life, they've done a lot of inner work, it's going to be very different to someone who's never ever looked within. So if someone has never looked within and goes to talk to someone about anxiety for the first time in their life, it's likely going to be not just about the present moment, but about all the moments of their life that have been thus far. Because, you know, if we haven't delved into our emotional world ever, there's going to be a lot to uncover. That will be a very different picture if you've got someone who's been on a spiritual path or on a mental health path or a personal development path for a long time. And then they go, I'm going through a 2-week period of anxiety, and they've really addressed all the other stuff. That's going to look different. So it depends on the person's particular circumstances, I think.
So it's unpacking a lot of past series events to get to where you are now.
Well, it depends on what's needed for that person. I think that's the point. Sometimes we will need to unpack past events and sometimes we won't. And that's part of that intuition and working with the right person. As I was saying, if someone's done a lot of inner work already and they've already rehashed the past events, that person might be being called to be more present and to move on. But someone else who has a deep trauma that they've never addressed and they've spent their life running from it, they might be being called to go back to it. So there's no clear-cut answer, and that's the whole point. And that's why this is so tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because the healer, whoever they may be they doctor, naturopath, acupuncturist, energy healer, they need to have that broad approach to be able to be in tune with the person in front of them to work out which it is, which isn't a linear equation and you can't learn it in a book. So that's the whole point.
So you were a holistic doctor, right?
So not anymore. So now
Not anymore.
So now I don't work as a doctor at all. I am a holistic counselor. So I don't give out medical advice per se, but if someone's struggling with a mental health or physical health issue, that there's no red flags, they've seen the doctor, there's nothing actually physically wrong, then I could come in and really help them work out what's at play on a mental, emotional, or spiritual level, and help them do that inner work to work out what's happening.
So would that be like a medical coach?
I call it holistic counselor because it fits what happens the most. So it's really counseling, but I bring in that holistic framework of my experiences as a doctor, of my experiences as a patient, of my experiences as someone on a spiritual awakening journey. All of that comes through to counsel that person probably in a deeper way that than someone who's just, I hate to say it, but done a counseling certificate and then, okay, I'm ready to go. Like, there's a depth that comes through, obviously, because of experiences.
Exactly. And I think that's a lot of what makes a good counsellor. Because, going to uni, getting a piece of paper saying that you've done a particular course doesn't make you, like, experienced in that field. And, I fully get your point.
And that's not to, like, we all have to start somewhere, you know. And you might have, and the worst thing, and I'll say that, like, I used to hate as a doctor when the patients would say, well, this was 20 years ago now, so, you look so young, you know, you're too young to be a doctor. I mean, it just makes you feel, you lose all your confidence. So for the same thing for a counselor or psychologist, it would be horrible, right? All I'm saying is that you asked me about what is my approach. I don't think counselor, the word really sums it up to the depth that it is, but that's the closest word I have for what I. So I was just trying to explain what really comes through in those sessions.
So my medical view of things have been very straight. There hasn't been much of different approaches as I've been growing up. How would you describe holistic to me? Like, I have no idea what holistic is, like in a holistic approach.
So a holistic
I may know
approach.
it's a mind, body, spiritual connection or something. Like, how would you describe it? Or
kind of what we were talking.
Understand?
Yeah, so what we were talking about before. So if you come with one particular issue, whatever that is, it's looking at holistic is whole, like it's zooming out. It's being able to go, okay, whatever that is, be it chronic headaches or chronic anxiety or depression or attachment issues with a parent or relationship issues or career indecision, whatever it is, it's being able to look at it from a broad perspective, looking at the physical areas of life, like, you know, your sleep, your energy levels, what are you eating, your lifestyle, going from that to the mind, what's at play in your mind, beliefs about the self, subconscious beliefs, like we say we want something, but are we really feeling deserving of what we say we want? Do we feel that, like, even say someone who's looking for love, do they feel deserving of love? What's getting in the way? Why are they choosing the wrong people? So that's mind, emotion, you know, what fears are we carrying? Because as human beings, we all carry fear. How in touch are we with our emotions? Someone might say, oh, I'm completely fine, but they just don't know what they feel. They've never really explored their inner world. They think it's fine. Or someone might say, I feel, you know, whatever. It's really going through all these layers. And then on the level of soul or spirit, that's more about being aligned. Do I feel aligned to who I am deep within? Does my life reflect how I feel inside? So an example would be like, as a doctor, was I aligned? No. That's why I went on this whole journey, because it wasn't in alignment to my soul. I was meant to do other things. So that's the level of soul. So if I went to someone in those times, which I did, and expressed having gut issues, if they don't explore that level of soul, are you feeling like you're in the right profession? They're never going to get to the root cause of the gut issues, because if your gut's tied up in knots because you're feeling out of alignment in your soul, you know, do you see how? So that's the holistic perspective. If someone is feeling like they can't be honest with the people they love about their sexuality, what's that going to do to their mental health, to their physical health, their emotional health? Because in their soul, they're feeling not right. You know, they're not feeling like they can be their authentic self. So these are all the components that make up a holistic approach, zooming out and seeing that it could be any of these. And a good healer will help you get to what it is, because your answers lie within you and they can help bring those to the surface.
The way I'm visually seeing this is like an iceberg.
Yeah, that's
Traditional,
right.
that's like just click, like with you explaining it, it's like, okay, the traditional healthcare system's like the tip of the iceberg. But
Yeah,
what's underneath that, the water, a massive mountain of ice,
yeah,
and that's what essentially you unpack.
yeah, that's it. And working out what is it that's really causing that disturbance that we can see. It's things we can't see. That's right.
Such a good point. Do you do much work with the chakras?
Our chakras.
Chakras, yeah.
I thought you were going to say chocolate.
The chakras, is that something you work with
Yeah,
as
I
well?
love the chakras. I mean, I did my yoga teacher training along the way, and I bring yoga into my holistic health workshops. The chakras are very valuable because this is very interesting. So, where stress plays out for me is going to be different where it plays out for you.
Mm,
And I believe that that can be linked to chakra elements. So, someone who, I guess, whenever they are stressed, gets, say, laryngitis or in their throat, right? Compared to someone who, when they're stressed, always get a stomach ache. So, the chakras can help us understand what's going on, because the throat one is linked to the throat chakra. And that's all about speaking out. Like, it's some of these are really actually quite obvious. It would be easy to teach doctors if they were open to it. But
yeah.
like, it's about speaking out. And I actually had a patient who, when yeah, it was a really interesting journey with her, because she came to me with I don't even think she came with throat issues, but she had a lot of difficulty speaking out in her life, and we would talk about that.
Wow.
And then she actually ended up having a thyroid cancer when we checked her bloods. Yes. And through that experience afterwards, once it got removed and she was cleared and she was all okay, she was really grateful. She was like, wow, now because we did the depth of, like you said, we did the under the iceberg work as well. She went for the surgery, she did that medical work, but we also did the unpacking work. We
Mm,
realized that she hadn't been speaking her truth with her family at work, and so she was actually a happier person. She wrote me a letter or something, like she was a happier person because she'd had that experience, and she was grateful that even though she had the thyroid cancer, it got her to see what was really at play in her life. And that just shows how that what manifested in this chakra for her was linked to the spiritual element of that chakra. So that's going to be very different to someone if, like I was saying before, when they get stressed, if it goes to their stomach, that's like the third chakra, personal power, confidence, self-esteem. It's very different. So we can use, instead of like just saying, oh, this person's stressed, we can actually go deeper than that with the chakras and work out, why are they really stressed? Like, what's really at play on a deeper level?
For those listening, because this is something that has been introduced to my life recently, I've been picking up this book, actually on my table here, the Chakra Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like learning about different parts, but how would you describe chakras? Because I know it's different colors that represent parts of your body, like the heart's red. I could be wrong.
Like pink or green, usually.
Pink or
There's,
green.
there,
Like,
it's the only chakra that tends to have two colors, pink or green.
right, okay. How would you describe to someone who's no idea what
Okay.
chakras are?
So chakras are thought to be like energy centers, like wheels. It's like wheels of light. And they just correlate to different parts of our being. But I think what's really interesting is, say, like with the solar plexus, the third chakra, in our bodies physically, there is a nerve plexus at that exact point. There's physical, like a bundle of nerves. A plexus is a bundle, and there's a bundle of nerves that sit like it's just like a few centimeters above your belly button. I can't show you, but like, yeah, so it's like just at that point, kind of like where your diaphragm meets in the center. And there's literally like a bundle of nerves there, and that links to your third chakra. So it's
Wow.
actually got a physical kind of link. So chakras are not actually physical, they're just more metaphysical, but they are energy centers in our body. And that's how we can think of them. The colors, yes, they're said to be different colors, and perhaps some people can see the colors. I can't, but I'm sure there are people out there that can see the chakras and things like that. But again, it's also to use anything with discernment. If it feels right for you, then go with it. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And chakras are complex. Like, you're not going to say, usually there's, the ones above or below also linked to, if we have something about our throat chakra, it's going to be linked, of course, with maybe our heart and, our third eye, our intuition. So it's not, again, it's having that broader perspective, but they're very beautiful to work with and can give a lot of guidance as to what are the deeper issues at play in health issues that show up.
Talking about this now, it's becoming more normalized as you talk to different people about it, but I feel in society it's still classed as, I want to say, like woo-woo magic stuff.
Yeah, it's difficult.
What do you think needs to change in society for it to be more normalized, or people willing to adventure into it?
I think, and I've written about this, I think it's looking at why there is this hesitation. And I think that comes down to fear. So people fear what they don't know or understand. And some, I guess, some spiritual people, I guess, along the ages have given spirituality a bad rap. Like, people get very afraid of tarot card readers or gypsies, or like, we've just like been conditioned to think these people can be bad. And so that's given the whole spirituality this woo-woo kind of out there, scary fear. It creates fear because people don't understand. So I think if we can get people to understand that, like I was saying before, in anything, there is, let's not even go with good and bad. Let's just go with good and not so good. Because the bad has reasons as well. We try and go beyond judgment, but for the sake of this explanation, good and not so good. You're going to have good and not so good doctors. You're going to have good and not so good teachers. You're going to have good and not so good priests. Think about all the domains and the good and the not so good that has come out about all of them, right? So if we can get people to see that it's not just in the spiritual world that there's good and not so good, it's human beings. It's in human beings. Then they can start to go, okay, maybe I can be a little bit more trusting that it's just up to me to make up my mind. Like, if you went to a doctor and they just told you, you need to have surgery tomorrow, you need to do this, you should do that, you probably would go and get a second opinion because it doesn't feel good. So I think it's just helping people, like kind of supporting them through the fear of the unknown and realizing, educating people that what they're afraid of is something bad or being told something scary that's going to unfold, someone fortune telling them, and in 5 years' time, this is going to happen. But that's fear. And if you find a really good spiritual healer, then there's what's there to be afraid of? They're just going to help you connect you to you. So I think that would be helpful to get them to see the good and the not so good in everything. Even people they put up there, like we put teachers up there, we put lawyers up there, we put doctors up there in the conditioned society. And, as we said, some are good, some are not so good, human beings. So when we can see things like that, it will be helpful. And then I think it's just as more and more human beings awaken and speak like I'm speaking and really be open with who they are and their truth. Firstly, about the framework of seeing the good and the not so good in anything. So that's the first point. And the next is more and more people speaking out about like how they view things. So sometimes people like myself, because of that view in society that it's too woo-woo or too out there, it can take you a long time to feel confident enough in yourself to put out your beliefs. And so that's why I stayed in medicine for so long, because even though you think differently and you're trying to do differently, there's a part of you that has that conditioning of, well, what you're doing is wrong, is too woo-woo, is you're too emotional to be a doctor, you're too broad thinking, like all these negative connotations. So when more and more people can go, no, actually what I'm saying, back themselves and share this with the world and give the spiritual and the woo-woo more credibility and say, well, I'm not doing anything out there that's that far-fetched. It's actually just asking someone what's happening in their relationship. If they're coming in anxious or depressed, that's not too much. Then we can start to shift the consciousness of medicine and our society. Because I actually approached a GP to tell her what I was doing with the holistic counseling and said, if she had any patients to refer. And, her response was, when it comes to medicine, I'm very mainstream. And I thought, wow, like, to think that looking at this holistic
Wow.
approach is not mainstream. I really hope one day it is mainstream and we have the doctors asking the patients, like in my first book, it's called Body Wisdom, What is Your Body Trying to Tell You? And if all doctors, after they'd ruled out those red flags, said to the patient, what do you think your body's trying to tell you? Because I did that experiment. I actually, when I was in GP practice, it's in my book. Like, I asked about 100 patients that question, and the answers I got was really, it was really quite profound. People could express, they knew what was happening to them. They just needed the permission to, I guess, back it. And people know.
I
People
feel
do
like
know.
the questions aren't being asked
They're not being
enough.
asked, yes.
Yeah.
So that's how we're going to shift things. When we teach doctors, when we teach the medical world that there are deeper things at play, and this is all you have to do. It's not that hard. In medicine, we taught like this pain, these questions you have to ask if someone comes in with pain. And then the last question, once they've ruled out anything serious, should be, and what do you think your body's trying to tell you? And someone will say, I think I really need rest, or I've been pushing myself too hard, or this isn't the right relationship for me, or this isn't the right job for me, or I need to go and repair my relationship with my mother, or whatever it is. They know, we know. They just need the person, the healer, to help them get there.
Joe Dispenza, I feel, you know who Joe Dispenza is? I feel his way of approaching things and his brand and what he's told the world is very interesting. And I feel his approach to things have made people a lot more aware on the potential and power of the mind, body, the holistic approach. Like, he has cured countless people from serious chronic diseases purely by a belief system process.
And I'll just interrupt you there. So he hasn't cured anyone. He has empowered people to believe that they can be in a different state to where they're at. So they had the thing within them. We've all got the tools within us, but he's given them the empowerment to back themselves and put them in this energetic state through his meditations and whatever else he does to kind of get out of their contextual framework where they're in now and move beyond themselves. So he hasn't done anything to someone. No one can heal you. The healing potential lies within us, but people can create the circumstances where we just actualize that, right? But often I have to say as well, like often it is a series of things. Healing, we can be led to believe it's just one miraculous moment, but it's not usually the case. Like even for those people that do have that miraculous moment, there's probably been a lot of pre-work to get there. They've probably been people who've really already been on a path that has enabled them to step beyond themselves in that moment. And that's important for people to be aware of as well. Otherwise, we can be seeking this miraculous moment without realizing that healing is often a lifetime journey. Doesn't mean we can't be rid of certain things, but the inner path is one that in actual fact has no end. And even Joe Dispenza himself would be looking at things and addressing things and moving beyond his self all the time. So I think these are the paradoxes of life. While some people can have these miraculous moments, they are going to be on the minority. And most people, their healing will be a journey of a series of moments. And those that have those moments have likely done a lot of inner work to get there. So I think it's important to have that framework.
With this conversation so far, I think I'm putting a pinpoint on what is missing. It seems to me that not enough people are doing the inner work or willing to go in and do the inner work to find the actual solution to the deeper problem. Do you see it the same?
I
or
do
you have a
see
different...
that, and I do understand that. So it's the same thing like we were saying about fear of some of the spiritual holistic viewpoints. People are nervous to go within because of what they might find. And we have to have love and compassion for that in other people and for that in ourselves, because it is difficult to go within when we don't know what we're going to have to need to change and our willingness to actually change it. Because we've all met people along the way that for whatever reason, even if they complain about their life situation, their partner, their job, they never change it. And ultimately, healing or awakening is a choice. and only that person can make it. So yes, that's a very true point, but that's one for each human being along their journey. And often people come to a moment or series of things that align in their life that will propel them, that they've got no choice. It feels like now it's my time. Like there's been a series of things, one thing or whatever, and I'm being called to look. And yeah, sometimes for people it's a big moment, and sometimes it's just an accumulation of small things. But at the end of the day, there'll be many people in this lifetime who do look within, and there'll be many that don't. What chance we have of actually evolving beyond the things that cause us suffering if we don't? Well, not much, because if we're not prepared to look at what has made us sick in body, mind, or heart, well, then we can't change what we don't want to see. So
Exactly.
if you want to really heal something, and I actually write, it's interesting. Where's my book? I have my second book. The first chapter talks about this. Caroline Myss, I'm not sure if you have encountered her stuff, but she talks about the will to heal versus the will to live. And I write about this concept as well in the second book, in the first chapter. And the will to live, like most human beings carry a will to stay alive. It's a very primitive, we want to live. And even those who have suicidal thinking, think about how many people live with suicidal thinking, because they still carry that will to live deep down. Even if their mind goes into suicidal thoughts at times, those who live with the thoughts, they still carry that will to live. But a will to heal, less people carry that will to heal, because what you've said, it's harder to go looking within the self and to shift the patterns and those things that are not serving us. That is hard. So, but in saying that, the benefit, the ripple positive effect of our lives and those around us when we choose to awaken from our old selves or smaller self or whatever you want to see, that's huge. That's profound. That's the biggest contribution we'll make to this earth. And our life starts to ripple, like a positive ripple effect outward. The more deeper you go in, the more, you can. Someone I follow, Victor Odo, I love this guy in America. He talks about it's like a bone arrow. The further you pull the arrow back, the further it can shoot forward. Yes. And I like that.
That's a good way of seeing things. For someone wanting to become a doctor, go down the path of medical, or whether it's a naturopath, what is one thing, like if you could say one thing to them, what would you tell them with obviously the process you've gone through experiencing both sides of the equation?
I would say the most important thing, there's two things. I would say a healer, if you want to be a true healer in whatever capacity that is, a healer is someone that connects other people to themselves. So the second part of that is a true healer has to be someone that is willing to look within, because you need to know what your own biases are, what your own journey is. We can only teach or heal how far we've taught or healed ourselves. So, they need to be a person that is willing to look within, to know what biases they carry, to make sure that the person in front of them, they are not even like subtly influencing them or directing them, and rather allowing that person's answers to arise from within them. So that's what I would give to them, that it's all like, learn all the information you want, get all the qualifications you want, whatever they are, even like a holistic healer, do your Reiki training, do your yoga training, do all these things. And then just sit back and kind of, when you're with the person in front of you, just be with the person and allow all of that to go to the background, and the answers you need will come to you to help that person get there. So, yeah.
And for a patient that may have a sickness of some sort, what would you tell them if they've come to that crossroad of, okay, I'm diagnosed with X. Do I go traditional, holistic, naturopath? I know you were saying get all opinions. That's the best way. But what's one thing you would say?
I would say be true to yourself, and that can be tricky when we get clouded by fear. So the most important thing is to find ways to center yourself into your higher self, inner being, whatever you want to call it, to connect within. So you're not thinking of the right, path. You just feel it. You find contact with your intuition, your highermost self. And so when you're on that journey, whatever that practice is for you, whether it's meditation, swimming, running, like you and your running clubs, whatever it is. Do your thing, see all the health professionals you need to see. And when you're running, when you're meditating, when you're surfing, your answers will come to you. So make sure that you are doing all the things that make you feel aligned to self to then support yourself to make the right decisions for you. And make sure you have healers from all of them, the medical, the energy healers, the naturopath. See all of them and make sure that they are on the same wavelength, that they are helping you to be empowered to make the right decisions for yourself.
It was going to be my follow-up question is, how does someone do this? And based on what you've said, it's answered that it's doing something that you love, whether that's running, like you were saying, or surfing, doing something that you love, and then that way you can make the decision in your state of enjoyment. Is that kind of the way to go about it?
It's what you love, but it's deeper than that. It's more like, because we could love going to the movies, or we could love,
scrolling through TikTok.
We can love all these things, but it's something that, like you feel in your soul. Like people who love the ocean, when they get in the water, they come out of the water different. I'm not one of them. I get freezing. I come out of the water if it's too cold, crying. It's too cold. But people who are water people, when they come out, they're like a different person. It's like they've aligned themselves to themselves. When I come out of a yin yoga class, I'm like a different person. I've aligned myself to myself. So find what it is, and this can be part of the journey. I'll say that as well. Often, if we get a major health thing, we actually don't know what it is. So we actually need to be doing both. We need to be finding what it is, because that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother part of our journey is finding ourself, our true self. But if we know, if we've got some inkling, it's doing that thing that aligns with our soul, that connects us with our soul, so that our decisions can kind of come forth rather than coming from the mind, which is operated by fear and doubt, insecurity, worry, all those things. So we need to be finding ourselves or doing the things when we feel aligned, and then finding practitioners and people in our lives that can also help us make aligned decisions. That's the best advice.
Dr. Talia, I have a couple last questions for you. If you could go back to your younger self with the knowledge and wisdom you have now, what would you tell yourself and why?
I would actually say, so I'm someone that I've probably had to learn to veer. There's a time I've learned, this is what I would say to myself. There's a time for inner work, and there's a time to sit back and integrate and just live your human life. So I would say to myself, you are doing an incredible job. Take the pressure off and just find that gentle balance. So some of us in this world tend towards the human life. Some tend towards the spiritual, the esoteric, the bigger picture. And they're both important. And I would say to myself, gently go in and out of both and take the pressure off always evolving. Because people on a spiritual path who are prepared to look within, like myself, can get lost there. And it's equally important of knowing when to come back out and to go, okay, now it's time for a bit more human living, and to gently do that dance between inner exploration and our human lives. I think that's what I would tell my younger self. Take the pressure off.
Did you put a lot of pressure on yourself?
Oh, very much. And I think that, you look around and you see we all do. We all put a lot of pressure. We all have these high expectations on our lives, what we want to achieve. And that's another big thing that recently I've really been coming to, that it's not about what we achieve in the external world. It's not about our titles, our roles, how much money we make, what milestones we get to. None of that's actually relevant. Well, it's relevant, but none of that's actually success or the most important part of our lives. The most important thing is our awakening and shedding the aspects of ourselves that don't serve us. So if we are on that path to looking within and to evolving ourselves, that to me is the biggest contribution we can make to the world, because we're becoming a better and more evolved person each day, and that can only be a wonderful thing. So if we all focused more on that rather than these external things to tick off, I think the world would be a far better and more beautiful place.
I love that. You've answered that so well. The last guest I interviewed on this podcast left a question for you, not knowing what business you're in, what work or person you are. This question is, I feel like this question really suits this conversation. I'm excited to hear what you think. When you think of the future, what's the one thing everyone doesn't see but needs to start preparing?
Okay. So I feel that I guess, we are all awakening quite rapidly now, and the institutions like medicine, like defense, like education, they're going to undergo such, I guess, an evolution at some point where what we've been talking about today will be mainstream. And so our society needs to be prepared that it's almost going to be like a revolution of all these institutions that are based from long outdated kind of conditioning. So there will be, hopefully, our society can go one of two ways. We can stay in the past and in an outdated model, or we can evolve. And hopefully there will be a huge evolution of all these institutions.
Dr. Talia Steed, thank you so much for opening my mind to a lot more possibility and perspective on different avenues to go down, and visually seeing holistic as an iceberg that
that's great.
topped it off, and makes a lot more sense now, and I'm so thankful for this opportunity to sit down with you and have this valuable conversation. Thank you
so much. Thank you.